Releasing Trauma is sponsored by the Global Association for Trauma Recovery. The Global Association for Trauma Recovery is a social impact organization serving as a resource for survivors and their families, dedicated to facilitating change by spreading trauma-related awareness and thus creating a more trauma-informed world. Learn more at gaftr.org. Welcome to Releasing Trauma, a Survivor's Podcast. I am your host, Tracy Osborne. I am a survivor of emotional bullying, rape, sexual assault, domestic abuse, and grief. After losing my husband in 2019, I set off on a new adventure to help other women release their trauma and create a life they can cherish. Each week, I will feature a guest expert or a survivor to share their stories, tips, wisdom, and more. The goal is so that you can take away even just the smallest nugget of information you can use in your life right now to make a change, and to remind you that you're not alone. There is life after trauma, and you can move from victim to thriver and create a life you can cherish. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I am your host, Tracy Osborne. And with me today is Melissa Rohlfs, and we are going to be talking about how to break free from sugar and emotional eating to heal. And if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that this is like my nemesis. My one spot that I have been working on for years, and I've just had so much trouble with it. So, Melissa, I am really excited to talk to you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, of course. Thank you for having me. And I want to tell you, Tracy, you're not alone. So it's something that a lot of people deal with, and for a very good reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And thankfully, I know I'm not alone, unfortunately. It is something that so many of us deal with. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about your backstory.
Yeah, sure. Well, I didn't ever plan on going into this line of work. If you would have met me in college, you would never guess this is where I would be. I'm a holistic health and life coach, and I got into this because about 11 years ago, we had a newborn baby who wasn't sleeping through the night. I had a 2-year-old daughter that had some undiagnosed food allergies and some sensory challenges. My husband was traveling for work, and I had just gotten diagnosed with PTSD from childhood trauma. So it was kind of the perfect storm.
Right.
And as a result of trying things to work with the trauma and heal from the trauma and the PTSD diagnosis, I ended up meeting with a naturopath who did vitamin and mineral testing, and everything was pretty much in the toilet because I grew up on standard American diet of white bread and Velveeta and sugar and Diet Dr. Pepper, and wasn't getting a lot of nutrition. So I think, Tracy, that really opened my eyes to the impact of food on mood, on overall health. We changed our diet because of our daughter's food intolerances, her behavior changed, and it was just this ripple effect of the impact food, and specifically sugar, has on every aspect of health.
And I don't think people really realize just the impact that food and sugar has on our moods. And, it's so much more than just, what we're fueling our body with.
Absolutely. And I think we live in a society that really has kind of taught people the mentality of food equals weight. And that's a piece of it, yes, but there's so much more. And I feel like we have not been given the whole picture and all the information on really what food does for us.
Oh my gosh, no, we don't. Like you said, we're brought up on the standard American diet. That's what they teach in school. And really that pyramid needs to be flipped upside down.
Absolutely.
It's really just completely wonky.
It is. And then we could get into the whole concept of, but the organic food and the healthier food costs more. And it's just an interesting perspective in so many ways.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And it costs more in the long run.
Yes.
But it saves you more I mean, it costs more in the short run, but it saves you more in the long run because it saves you getting sick. It saves you on, medical expenses and things like that. So there is a trade-off.
100%. And I think the quality of life factor really needs to be discussed as well, because I know when I was in that place of living off of sugar and carbs and Diet Dr. Pepper and coffee to survive those days when my kids were little, I was curled up in the couch on fetal position by the time my husband got home from work, and I was crabby and I was irritated and I wasn't showing up in the world as I wanted to, and I wasn't giving my family what they deserved.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that. Some of the things that I've noticed for me personally, when I go on my sugar binges is, my skin is puffier, like my face is puffier. My rosacea flares up, so my skin is not as clear. My psoriasis flares up. But the mood swings, I'm tired all the time. I'm foggy. You can't think. And you get irritable for absolutely no reason. And around the PMS, I've noticed around my period, it makes it 10 times worse around my period.
Yeah. And that affects hormones. It affects the immune system. And, you think about with the period and the hormone component, our daughters, the girls that we're raising now, what is this doing to them? How will this impact them in the long run when they've probably had more sugar as children than we had when we were kids?
Yeah. And I mean, everything is packed with sugar and crap nowadays. We teach our kids, you got to eat healthy. And then we send them to school and the school lunches are subpar on a good day.
Right.
I remember being back in school and in high school, and you ate everything slathered in ranch dressing, just to get through the taste of it. So, and the other thing that I've noticed with sugar too is that the more sugar you eat, the more sugar you crave.
100%, because it releases those dopamine centers in the brain. And over time, we need more to get that fix. It's 9 times more addictive than cocaine, yet it's legal. It's socially acceptable. It's thrown out at parades. It's insane.
It's everywhere. Yeah. I mean, look at...
It's in ketchup.
Yeah, it's in ketchup. It's in everything. I mean, this time of year, especially, you look at this time of year and it's like, you got Halloween, and then you got Thanksgiving, and then you got Christmas, and there's so much candy in just those 3 months.
For sure. And it's
junk
also
food and
coincides with cold and flu season.
Yeah. It lowers your immune system. So you end up getting sick faster and longer.
Yes.
So, I can talk about all that for so long. I've studied this for so long, trying to figure out how to stop the cycle. So how do we stop the cycle?
Well, I think the first thing is to really understand why you want to stop the cycle. I think a lot of times people will set a goal and they will have this idea of maybe, oh, I want to look good for my class reunion, or I want to fit into a swimsuit for my vacation. And those are fine and good, but are those deep enough whys to keep you focused when things get hard and you are craving the sugar? And a lot of times they're not, because those are things that come and go. So if we have a solid why, kind of like you were alluding to earlier, and that I really want to have a great quality of life. I want to be present with my family. I don't want to have the brain fog. That is a more concrete why that's going to motivate you when the things get hard. So I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing is to become aware of why and when you're turning towards sugar. Is something triggering you? Are you looking for something in your life that you're not getting elsewhere, and you're looking for that sweetness? And if you can really navigate the why behind the why, that's where we can change.
I like that. And you've got to have a powerful why. I've used the vanity thing so many times and it never works.
No, it doesn't work, does it?
It's that whole, I'll feel better about myself when,
Mm-hmm.
And I know better. I really do. But I still play that game with myself, and I lose every time.
Yeah, we all do.
And not pounds either.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another point. I think our society is scale obsessed.
100%.
And I mean, you go to anyone and you say, I want to get healthy, and the first thing they say is, well, how much weight do you want to lose?
Yep.
And what I've found in my research is that the number on the scale is just a tool. It's not an absolute.
100%. I think the best guide is how you feel. How are you showing up in the world? Are you honoring and respecting your body? I personally go by how my clothes fit, because that number on the scale messes with me, because we think that once we hit a certain number, we'll achieve these things and everything will magically fall into place. And then it doesn't, and we're disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we just put way too much emphasis on that number on the scale, and which reminds me, I really need to throw mine away.
Good girl.
I'm just as scale obsessed as everybody else, so.
Sure. And then I think we throw in, the societal imaging that we get with magazines and celebrities, and they've probably been airbrushed.
They've been airbrushed.
Yep.
Airbrushed, and, and they're, a lot of times their diets are unrealistic.
Yes.
These poor women are craving for bread. Yep. That commercial, what would you do for a Klondike bar? They do some pretty serious stuff for a piece of bread, let me tell you.
That's right. And carbs aren't bad. We need carbs. They're a macronutrient. I feel bad for carbs.
Yeah, we totally need carbs. We just need the right carbs.
Yes, 100%.
So let's talk about that a little bit. What are good carbs versus bad carbs?
Yeah, so a good carb is a complex carb, Tracy, and it's going to give you more energy. It's not going to make you ride that blood sugar roller coaster. So some examples would be sweet potatoes, oats, if you're not intolerant to them, quinoa, brown rice, something that's going to sustain you. Because a lot of times what happens is with carbs and sugar, they give us that quick rush, and that makes our blood sugar go all over the place. And that's what causes the mood swings, the irritability, the brain fog, all of those things we don't want to deal with.
Right.
So you really want a carb that's going to sustain you and kind of give you some lasting energy instead of that quick fix.
Right. Absolutely. The complex carbs take longer to digest, and process, which gives us the energy longer.
Yep.
Whereas the sugar and stuff just kind of burns right through our system.
Totally. And it makes us ride the blood sugar roller coaster, which affects our moods. It affects our hormones. It affects so many things.
And which, is another reason why sugar makes us want more sugar.
Yep.
We crash and then we're like, oh, I need more sugar. I need to pick me up. I need that afternoon soda and candy bar to get me through the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's the body's way of saying your body needs something, but we just haven't been taught what that is, right? So we reach for the sugar because it's easy.
It's easy. It tastes good. It works. I mean, if broccoli tasted as good as chocolate, I'd be golden.
Right.
So, what are some tips that you have for our listeners out there that are maybe wanting to get healthier, stop the sugar cycle, and stop the emotional eating?
Yeah, I think a few practical, tangible things that people could do today, Tracy, would be make sure you're hydrated. A lot of times we think that we are hungry or we have a craving, but we're actually dehydrated. So if you feel you have a craving, drink a glass of water, sit 5 or 10 minutes and see what happens. And a lot of times that's what we needed instead of the sugar. So I would say, check your hydration. The next thing I would say is replace the refined white sugar with an upgrade. That could be something like stevia. That could be something like coconut sugar, because it's low glycemic. It's not going to make you ride that blood sugar roller coaster. Natural honey is great. That also helps with allergies. Maple syrup, just upgrade what you're doing. I'm not about deprivation and going without sugar. It's about breaking free from sugar and doing it in a healthy way. And I think if you can replace the non-healthy stuff with the healthy stuff, that's going to be great, because then you're not deprived and you're still getting that sweetness, but it's better for you.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with the water. I know that I think most of us are chronically dehydrated.
Yes. And that affects our mood too.
It does. It affects a lot of things. I was going to go somewhere with that, and now I don't remember where I was going to go because I've had too much sugar. Yeah, I totally lost that train of thought. That's all right. I'll come back to it. I'll remember. So, one of the things that I've noticed with me is that, I'm the emotional eater. Food, I've had emotional eating problems since I was 5. It stemmed from when my parents got divorced and I felt abandoned by my father. Food doesn't abandon me.
Yeah.
But it does so much more damage, really.
Wow.
But it's one of those, I think for me, it is the one thing that I have had so much trouble getting over. I can get over, I got over the traumas. I've processed through all of that, the depression. That's where I was going to go. But getting over the emotional eating and those habits has just been brutal.
I relate a lot with what you're saying, because I started emotional eating around 8. And that's kind of when some of my trauma occurred, and I used to hide sweet treats in my bedroom. So I resonate with what you're saying. And I think the hard thing with food is we need it to survive. It's not something like alcohol or nicotine where we don't need it. We need food to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I remember where I was going to go. I was going to go with, the hydration and the poor diet, for those of us that are recovering from trauma, being dehydrated, eating that poor diet actually heightens your depression and anxiety.
100%.
So yeah. So what are some, let's say we're craving chocolate, or, we're really craving bread or something like that. What are some things that we can replace those cravings with, or what does it mean? Does it mean like we're low on potassium, or low on magnesium, or?
It could mean a number of things. And I love the other thing I think people could walk away from this with today, Tracy, is to replace judgment with curiosity. Because I think what we'll do is we'll say, oh, I have a craving. Oh, I can't have that. And then we'll kind of start that shame cycle of, oh, I can't have this. I shouldn't have this, blah, blah, blah. But instead of doing that, maybe ask, what am I craving? Because sometimes it is nourishment and we are hungry. Sometimes it's connection with people. Sometimes we're wanting to avoid something. And so we're stuffing our feelings with food, because that was my MO. So if you can ask yourself, what am I really craving? That can be really powerful. And that, I think, will tell you what your body is craving.
How valuable do you find like food logs, food diaries?
They can definitely be helpful. I think if you are an emotional eater, it's a great perspective to have, because you can kind of pinpoint the feelings that make you maybe want to eat, that are your triggers. And so then if you can be aware when you have those feelings, you can replace that behavior with something that's not food related.
Absolutely. And, something that works for me too, because I'm really bad about the food diary as far as, what am I doing? What am I feeling? I'm really bad about writing that down. But when I'm really good at using the calorie trackers,
okay.
Then I get it in my head. Okay, this equals this many calories, but I can eat this for this many calories. So when I start looking at the junk food, it's like, oh, do I really want to eat those cookies for 800 calories? when I can have an apple for 30, you know?
Mhm.
And it tricks, not really tricks my mind, but it kind of resets it,
Mhm.
you know? And it's like, okay, the healthier options are healthier for a reason.
100%. And I think too, if you can focus on how you will feel as a result of eating it, that can be powerful too, because I think you get to a point where you're like, I'm tired of being bloated. I'm tired of my skin being puffy. I'm tired of being irritated. I'm tired of my pants being too tight. And that feeling can kind of drive the behavior, because, our thoughts become our feelings, which become our actions. So it's kind of this chain effect of where does it start and identifying that.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Melissa, thank you so much. This is a topic I could talk about forever.
You and me both. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Tell us, let's see, you have a book out, correct?
I have a chapter in a book. I have written a book, but I haven't published it yet. So
okay,
it will be coming at some point.
Awesome. So what is your chapter that's in the book? What is that about?
It is about finding freedom, because I really feel like my journey has set me free from the sugar addiction and the emotional and stress eating and food and just all that goes with that. So the book is called Finding Diamonds, and it's an anthology with 11 other women, and we're all kind of sharing our different stories of freedom and what that means to us.
I love it. And how can our listeners find you online?
Yeah, my website, Tracy, is free, the number 2, the letter B, coaching.com. So freetobecoaching.com.
Awesome. And listeners, I will have all of Melissa's contact information down in the show notes. If you're listening from one of our partner stations, just head over to releasingtraumapodcast.com, pull up Melissa's show, all her contact information, and the link to her book will be right there for you. So, Melissa, thank you again for coming on. This has been awesome.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me. I loved the conversation.
Oh, great. It's, like I said, it's something I could talk about forever. So, and listeners, as always, thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you in the next show.